Hello and welcome. You're watching The Big Fight, the only show that is young at 22, the oldest running debate show on Indian news television. I'm Sanket Dubey. Now, in November 2019, when the Supreme Court decided in favor of a temple and the RSS chief and the Prime Minister hinted at moving forward, not celebrating this as a victory, ye jay aur parajay ka samay nahi hai, I remember the RSS chief saying. They said that this was a moment of taking everyone together. The Prime Minister has repeated Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Prayas, even on Friday. Now, one really thought that a controversial issue is behind us, and that is of religious polarization centered around a mandir and masjid dispute. All sorts of other things were happening, hijab, loudspeaker, but mandir masjid, we thought that that is over. At least in November 2019, we settled that issue. But since early this year, whether during the UP elections when Keshav Prasad Maurya commented on Kashi and Mathura, and then a nearly synchronized round of petitions all across Uttar Pradesh, have started this discourse again. The story of a shoddily executed survey report after a local court ordered it in Varanasi, to the sacking of a survey commissioner, has reached the Supreme Court. The court has now ordered that a higher, more seasoned or a senior judge hear the most basic case, whether the survey order itself was a violation of the Places of Worship Act or not. Now, of course, there are two sides to this argument. Legally, this matter stands in the court, and this is the stage where it stands right now. Whether a survey can be ordered or not. So, if that Sessions Court decides, or that judge decides that no, it cannot be ordered, like it has happened in the past, then in that case, the survey report is null and void. But if at a later stage they say that no, it is admissible, that's when you take the story forward. But legally, as of this moment, the very existence of whether the survey should be carried or not is in question. But the point is, you see, the politics around this case has far exceeded the legal battle. Constituents in the Hindu community are already being told about the existence of a Shivling. And in an act of counter-polarization, the likes of Mr. Owaisi are doing their bit in questioning this exercise and appealing to the Muslim community. So tonight on The Big Fight, while we are cognizant that the legal process is still at a very nascent, basic stage, the leaks and the tamasha around the survey, has that not taken the politics around Gyanvapi and Mathura way too deep into the public discourse, and perhaps a script for 2024 is being written right now? Is that the case? That is the big question that we are asking. From Kashi to Mathura, is the 2024 script being written now? I would like to introduce all our guests. In just a short moment, we'll also be running this small excerpt of a conversation that we have had from the press conference of Mr. Vinod Tawde, a senior leader of the BJP, who in Jaipur, where the BJP's Karyakarta Sammelan is happening, has basically commented on revisiting Places of Worship Act, and he gave an interesting perspective which could perhaps send out a message that at least the senior leadership of the BJP is not interested in taking this matter forward. But for how long? Because politically, the ground, it seems, has been laid. I would like to welcome our guest this evening. Udit Raj, former MP and Congress leader, is with us. Professor Mridula Mukherjee, historian, former professor at JNU. K.C. Tyagi, the Secretary General of the Janata Dal United. Pramod Swami, leader of the BJP. Professor Geeta Bhatt is a political analyst. Her views lean towards the RSS and the BJP. Sudhindra Bhadoria is a political analyst and also a leader of the BSP. Aman Lekhi, senior advocate of the Supreme Court. Dr. Saradindu Mukherjee, member of the ICHR, Indian Council of Historical Research, is an author and a historian. Thank you very much for joining us. And Justice Pradeep Nandrajog, former Chief Justice of the Bombay High Court and also former Chief Justice of the Rajasthan High Court and Judge of the Delhi High Court. Thank you very much. This is a full house right here because we want all perspectives and hear all views around this story. Let me first begin with you, Justice Pradeep Nandrajog. The format of this show where each one of you get 1 minute time to make your opening comments. We call it the first punch. Justice Nandrajog, I know you are an officer of law. You have been a Chief Justice, but at the beginning of this show, would request you that all of you make your point in 1 minute, and then we'll give you further time to elaborate what you feel. Justice Nandrajog, your time begins now.
You see, in this issue of the Gyanvapi Mosque and the Shiva Temple, the historical recorded facts do not, according to me, admit any dispute on facts. That there was a temple in existence dedicated to Lord Shiva is a historical fact recorded. That a part of the temple was demolished in 1669 is also an admitted fact. That the demolition was not complete is also a recorded historical fact. That the western wall of the temple was retained, which now serves as the western wall of the mosque. And as we know that in every mosque, the most revered wall is the Qibla wall. That the plinth of the temple was intact, which is used as the courtyard, is not in dispute. That there is a Nandibul facing the mosque is also not in dispute. Therefore, the question of any survey to find out the facts whether at all a Shiv temple existed or not is a non-issue. The issue is the Place of Worship Special Provisions Act of 1991. Whether that protects, requires the status quo to be maintained.
Okay.
That is the issue.
Okay. Justice Nandrajog, I'm going to come back to you so that you can elaborate further. Udit Raj, your opening comments.
See, it's very unfortunate. If going by this incident, then all over the country, there can be many mosques, many temples also. You see, Somnath temple, Tirupati, and Puri temple are very obvious that remains and statues and Buddha or Buddhism are there, and at one point of time these were the Buddhist shrines, but afterwards they were demolished. Then of course not only the Gyanvapi, but there will be many mosques also. Then of course let the whole country be dug. You see, every inch of the earth is at some point of time is of course dumped with some kind of things like murder, and of course you will find the remains of Shivlinga or other deities everywhere.
Yes.
So what to do is that
I get the sentiment that you are expressing, Mr. Udit Raj. I'm going to come back to you because your 1 minute of opening time is over. Mr. K.C. Tyagi, your opening comments, sir.
संकेत जी, मुझको 1984 और 1990 के बीच का जो घटनाक्रम उसका मैं गवाह रहा हूं, मैं और उस पार्लियामेंट में भी था, तो मुझको वही दिन याद आ रहे हैं जब बाबरी मस्जिद एक्शन कमेटी की इंडिया गेट पर रैली होती थी और सैयद साबुद्दीन बड़ी जोशीली तकरीरें किया करते थे कि बाबरी मस्जिद के लिए हम लोग खून की नदियां बहाएंगे। दूसरी तरफ वीएचपी की रैली हुआ करती थी उसी मैदान पर, उसी जगह। अशोक सिंघल जी उस समय उसके सर्वोच्च नेता थे और उनकी तकरीरें भी राम जन्मभूमि को किस तरह से लिया जाए उसके लिए हुआ करती थी। एक तटस्थ लोगों का भी एक बड़ा सेक्शन था सोसाइटी का, जिसमें हमारे जैसे लोग भी शामिल थे कि अदालत के फैसले का इंतज़ार करना चाहिए। उस समय हम शुरू में लोकदल में थे, बाद में हम जनता दल में थे और वीपी सिंह जी हमारे प्रधानमंत्री थे। उस समय भी ये सवाल आया था और मैं बहुत गर्व के साथ कहना चाहता हूँ इस सवाल पर वीपी सिंह की सरकार चली गई थी, इसी
Okay.
सवाल पर, चूंकि अडवाणी जी वहां पर शिलान्यास करना चाहते थे और हमारी सरकार ने मने कर दिया था और उन्होंने कहा था कि अगर मुझे रोका गया तो सरकार छिड़ जाएगी। तो ये जो सवाल अब नए तरीके से उठे हैं, ये क्या क्या गुल खिलाएंगे, कहाँ कहाँ जाएंगे।
बहुत बड़ी
और
बात।
आदरणीय
I think that's a
साहब
very
की
very
एक लाइन
important point, because and that is the basic point of this debate also, Pramod Swami, that the seeds of future politics, have they been sown? No one's commenting on the legal exercise, but is it purely legal? What is happening? There is a political side.
देखिए
स्वामी।
मैं किसी पक्ष और विपक्ष की बात नहीं करना चाहता। मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं कि ये देश जो है वो संविधान से चलेगा, ये हमारे प्रधानमंत्री माननीय मोदी जी कहते हैं, और जो मामला जो है वो न्यायालय में है। अब न्यायालय इसको तय करेगा कि वहां क्या है और क्या नहीं है, लेकिन न्यायालय के ऊपर में जब प्रश्न उठने लगते हैं, न्यायालय अगर सर्वे करवा रहा है तो किसी सर्वे से हमें क्यों आपत्ति हो सकती है। हमने 500 वर्षों तक राम मंदिर के लिए भी हमने धैर्य रखा, और राम मंदिर का भी जो निर्णय है वो कोर्ट के द्वारा ही आया। तो कोर्ट के ऊपर में हमें आस्था होनी चाहिए, और हमारी पूरी आस्था कोर्ट के ऊपर में है। लेकिन जो लोग आज इस तरह की बातें करते हैं, मैं उनसे एक सवाल पूछना चाहता हूं कि शाहबानो केस में सुप्रीम कोर्ट के निर्णय को क्यों बदल दिया गया। तो ये जो भी बातें हैं वो दो पक्षीय नहीं होनी चाहिए। अगर न्यायालय है, कानून है, तो वो सबके लिए है। काम है जब कोई कानून बनता है सीए के ऊपर में, जब 3 तलाक के ऊपर में कोई कानून बनता है,
Okay,
तो
all
फिर
right.
उसका विरोध क्यों होने लगता है।
Okay, all right. Mr. Sudhindra Bhadoria and then Professor Geeta Bhatt. Mr. Sudhindra Bhadoria.
Let me say this, that I've heard some of the participants in this discussion, and I would like to, draw from their points also. You see, we are a democratic pluralist society. We have coexisted together for centuries in this country, and we have pursued different faiths, different paths. And after 1947, the constitution which is there, which is the guiding force for all of us and which binds us, and the parliament has enacted a law in 1991. I think given the act which has been created, I think we should create conditions of unifying the different sections of Indian society, different faiths of people which are there. I think the government has to play a major role in this. So has the judiciary. They should act together in trying to keep the people together, rather than there will be, of course, forces which will be interested in pulling in different directions. But we should, as a people, as different institutions in this country, keep the whole nation together, the people together, and that is the prime most duty of the people who are heading the country.
I'm going to come back to you now for the academicians, the experts. Professor Mridula Mukherjee, your opening comments.
Well, I would like to continue the line of arguments, for example, made by Bhadoria ji. I reciprocate his sentiments completely, but I would like to say that not only what Justice Dandarod said about what was there in the 1991 Act, which is very clear that there can be no change in the character of a place of worship as it was found on 15th August 1947. What is equally important is that in the famous judgment of the Supreme Court on the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid issue, that judgment made it very explicit that one of the reasons they were giving it in favor of one particular party was they wanted an end to this atmosphere of rancor. And they clearly said that this act which was passed in 1991 must be upheld. It's reiterated in that judgment. And they said very clearly no further dispute should arise, should be taken up. So in fact, it is my belief, I am not a legal person, but it is the way I read it as a layman, there should be no cause for the survey. What is the purpose of a survey if at the end of it you cannot argue that the character of that place of worship should change?
Yeah,
So
okay.
that is my
Dr.
understanding,
Saradindu
and I
Mukherjee,
do
you see
not-
that point that you're making has been discussed in or has been in the public discourse for a very long time. And there is a counter view that should we not explore what the reality was, and why should that exercise have to suffer? So there are two, there is an argument that there are two totally different things. An inquisitiveness of a country as a purely academic exercise to find something versus exacting some form of change as a consequence of that academic exercise. Dr. Saradindu Mukherjee, your opening comments. Dr. Saradindu, can you just unmute yourself before you accuse me of putting you off air, not letting your voice heard?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now,
Loud and
this
clear.
is not a classified secret that thousands of Hindu temples had been destroyed and desecrated, and mosques have been built over that. So no doubt about that. Now, these facts about Kashi Vishwanath or Mathura or any other place or Qutub Minar in Delhi, these have been known to everyone. Those who want to know the real history, they know that this is part of Indian history. The point is that whether politics is involved, I'm not a person to talk on that. Neither I'm going to talk on the legal aspect of it. But the point is, if there's a serious problem, this is one of the major causes of differences between Hindus and Muslims. The Hindu grievances, the injustice to which the Hindus were subjected for centuries of Muslim rule, that was one of the important causes of the difference between the Hindus and Muslims. Second thing, I'm not going into the various aspects of the Religious Places Act of 1991. This was opposed by many of us. But one particular point which I want to emphasize was why 15th August 1947 is relevant here. In the destruction of Hindu temples or the continuance of Muslim rule, 15th August 1947 is not an important date. What it signifies was 15th August 1947
We got
was defeat for the
independence.
Hindus. Look, it's a defeat for the Hindus, the victory for the Muslim Ummah. That's it. So 15th August 1947 should not be a date. That's it for the time.
I think we'll throw this open for a wider discussion in just a short moment. Mr. Aman Lekhi, your opening comments, sir.
Well, the historical wrongs are undisputed. The issue, however, is there legal right to collect it? Now, this will bring in the issue of the intertemporal aspect of law, which is very material. Whether the current law can actually be applied to a different generation and time when the legal system was in fact completely different and the wrongdoers were basically an empire and not a polity governed by law. An associate argument would be the intergenerational obligation, whether that continues across generations. As far as the right to actually agitate this issue is concerned, as long as the law stands, the presumption of constitutionality prevails. And the policy behind the law as to bring a closure and rest is not something which is adverse to public interest. Insofar as the Supreme Court dealing with the matter is concerned, I think it has dithered because the court more superior than the Supreme Court was not there, and I'm sure the district judge would not in any way match the Supreme Court insofar as the legal capacity or superiority eminence is concerned. This is an opportunity for the court to actually lay at rest the issue which is of pressing importance, and I feel that the Supreme Court would have been an ideal forum to actually deal with and close this issue.
Correct. Just like the Ram Temple case eventually came to the Supreme Court and was disposed of. Justice Nandrajog, coming back to you now, and what I wanted to know from you is where this battle stands legally right now. So legally, as of this moment, the court is going to decide whether ordering a survey was a violation. Sorry, really sorry. Professor Geeta Bhatt. I really apologize, Professor Geeta Bhatt. Your opening comments.
Yeah, Sanket-ji, I just wanted to add over here is that, you see, before 1992, there going to the Gyanvapi Mosque was something which many people could go access it, and the Gauri Shringar Puja, which actually is at the center of this case which has been filed, because here the contest here is not of any titles. No one is asking. They are basically asking that they should be allowed to do the prayer over there. Now they are allowed to worship over there, and that is which was allowed. It was something a regular feature, because only after the 1991 Worship Act that it was they were debarred from doing any pujas. And those who have entered that premises, all of them, they have seen the rubbles of the temples, and many other panelists have already spoken on that. Now the point is that here, while it is being said that how much further we are going to go into it, there are some of the sacred places, and it is one of these sacred places is the Kashi, the Vishwanath temple, over which time and again we have observed that the mosque committee, they have asked for stopping this order, reversing this district court order.
Yeah.
Which is something that means that there is a denial mode. They do not want to accept that yes, there could be a much.
Yeah, I'll ask this question because Professor Mithila Mukherjee also said that what is the purpose of this exercise when you know that you can't alter the religious structure of the place. Now the Places of Worship Act itself is being challenged. Politically it was challenged in 1991, is being challenged in a court of law even now. Justice Nandrajog, coming back to you, and I want to ask you this question. You see, legally, as of this moment, the Supreme Court has said that a district judge will decide whether ordering of the survey was a violation of the Places of Worship Act or not, and thus should it be declared null and void or not. But do you feel the manner in which the survey report came out in the open was discussed threadbare, how a copy of a secret survey line by line was broadcast, the manner in which the survey commissioners were called compromise by another survey commissioner, you think the damage has already been done, the point that Mr. K.C. Tyagi is making. The wheels of justice may move now, but what has happened so far, in the past 20 days, a lot has already happened in the public domain.
I entirely agree with your comment that the damage has been done. I would speak purely from a legalistic angle.
Yes, sir.
Every speaker on the panel is agreeing that on the fact that there was a temple in existence and the temple has been demolished and remnants of the temple still exist and a mosque has been erected is not in dispute. These are not facts of belief. These are contemporaneous facts recorded in every history book. Anyone who has been writing on history, irrespective of the ideology, has recorded that. Now, if the maintainability of a suit is questioned before the court, law says that pending adjudication of the issue whether the court has jurisdiction, the court can pass certain interim orders, but those interim orders are orders of status quo. Those cannot be orders of collecting evidence. And in this case, what evidence do you need to collect? Where is the dispute on fact that a mosque was constructed where a temple existed and the temple was demolished, partly? Therefore, the issue had to be straightforward, maintain status quo in view of the 1991 Act.
And that's a very important
and decide on the maintainability. Now,
so you're saying, this is Justice Nandrajog makes a very important point, Professor Mukherjee, that where is the dispute that there is this incident happened many years ago. But the point is, the spirit of that Places of Worship law had to be implemented, which is where I come into the point of an academic exercise versus exacting some action from that academic exercise. How do you view this?
I think we should be very clear. We are not talking about a situation where some people, some students of history are doing research on that architecture of the temple and the mosque and going to come out with some findings which probably 10 people will read or their colleagues will know. We are talking about a survey being conducted, asked with legal permission by groups of people who have interests very different from what you are saying, academic interests. You know, that's a very different story. Here it is clearly motivated by different considerations and with different objectives in view. So anybody, any citizen of India has the right to ask a question, what is the end purpose of this survey? Surely.
Pramod Swami, would you like to answer?
And
Professor
then I would
Mukherjee,
like to say,
Professor
Mr.
Mukherjee
N.
asked a very, very pointed and pertinent question. What is the purpose of this survey?
Yes.
अभी एक
I would
सज्जन
like
ने
to-
जो जिनका बैकग्राउंड जो जुडिशरी से जुड़ा हुआ जिनका बैकग्राउंड है, उन्होंने बड़े स्पष्ट रूप से इस बात को कहा कि औरंगजेब ने फरमान जारी किया था उस मंदिर को, शिव मंदिर को ध्वस्त करने का, और 8 अप्रैल 1669 को उनके सेनापति ने एक चिट्ठी लिख करके इस बात को कबूल किया था। मेरे को बोलने दीजिए, आप बोलिएगा। उनके सेनापति ने कबूल किया था, ये हिस्टोरिकल फैक्ट्स है। तो इसके ऊपर में एक याचिका दायर की गई, उस याचिका में सर्वे की इजाजत कोर्ट ने दी। अब सुप्रीम कोर्ट में भी लोग गए थे, लेकिन सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने उस पर कोई रोक नहीं लगाई और सर्वे हुआ। सर्वे के बाद में अब कोर्ट ने कहा कि जहां जो शिव मंदिर जो
प्रमोद जी, आप मुझे ये बताइए, अभी मैं सवाल थोड़ी देर पहले यही पूछ रहा था, केसी त्यागी जी, आपको लगता है कि अभी कानूनी रूप से
संकेत जी,
लीगली, I'll come to you, लीगली एज ऑफ दिस मोमेंट मामला अदालत में किस स्टेज पर है, और पॉलिटिकली या सोशली मामला लोगों में किस स्टेज पर है? आपको नहीं लगता इसमें जमीन आसमान का फर्क हो गया सिर्फ इन 20 दिनों में? केसी त्यागी।
संकेत जी, एक तो आपके जो मित्र लोग हैं मीडिया में, उनकी बड़ी मेहरबानी है कि उन्होंने इस मामले को इतना संवेदनशील बना दिया। भारतीय जनता पार्टी के प्रवक्ता की मैं प्रशंसा करना चाहता हूं कि उन्होंने और कई और साथियों ने संजीदगी के साथ कहा है। ये पहले वाला नारा नहीं है संकेत जी कि कसम राम की खाते हैं, मंदिर वहीं बनाएंगे। अभी किसी भाजपा के नेता का ये बयान नहीं आया है, ये भी कह रहे हैं अदालत को सौंपना चाहिए। मैं संकेत जी दूसरी महत्वपूर्ण बात ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि एक तो जज को सिजदा करना चाहता हूँ, और उस जस्टिस ने जो फैसला दिया है ये सब पार्टियों के लिए, सभी वर्गों के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है कि ये मामला बेहद जटिल एवं संवेदनशील है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट की ऐसे में हमें लगता है कि इसकी सुनवाई ट्रायल जज द्वारा होनी चाहिए। नंबर 2, देश में एकता का माहौल बना रहना चाहिए, जिसकी फर्स्ट कैजुअलिटी हो रही है दिन भर चैनलों पे, दिन भर बयानबाजी में। भाई ये शौर्य हमारा तब कहाँ चला गया था जब ये मंदिर टूट रहे थे। इतना शौर्य अगर हम उस समय दिखाते जब मंदिरों पे हमले हो रहे थे तो शायद ये नौबत नहीं आती। ये मेरे मित्र उदित राज एग्री करेंगे। नंबर 3 है कि एक हीलिंग टच देने का, यानी कि मरहम रखने की जरूरत है।
बिल्कुल, that was a
सुप्रीम
very
कोर्ट
important
के
point that
फैसले
was
के
made by Justice Chandrachud. Yeah.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट के फैसले के खिलाफ सब लोग आचरण कर रहे हैं।
संकेत जी, एक बार मैं त्यागी जी की बात का जवाब देना चाहूंगा
जल्दी से।
मेरी आस्था है कि वहां शिव मंदिर है, मेरा विश्वास है कि वहां शिव मंदिर है।
वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट।
मैं एक मिनट में अपनी बात कंप्लीट कर देता हूँ। लेकिन हम संविधान में विश्वास रखते हैं, इसलिए हम चाहते हैं, हमने राम मंदिर के लिए भी 500 साल इंतजार किया, और हम चाहते हैं कि इसका जो निर्णय है सुप्रीम कोर्ट के द्वारा इसका निर्णय आए, न्यायालय से।
नहीं, आप मुझे ये बताइए प्रमोद जी, फ्रॉम अ सिचुएशन वेयर द आरएसएस चीफ एंड द प्राइम मिनिस्टर सेड लेट्स मूव ऑन, दिस इज नॉट अ टाइम टू सेलिब्रेट, वहां से लेके आज ये स्थिति कि अब हम न्यायपालिका में विश्वास रखते हैं, हम सब रखते हैं। But I am talking about the very convenient shifting of the political goalposts.
प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने कहा कि ये किसी हार और जीत का मामला नहीं है, बिल्कुल सही कहा। लेकिन अगर न्यायालय ये निर्णय देकर के वहां राम मंदिर बना रहा है तो उसके निर्णय।
Okay, Udit Raj and Sudhin Bhadoria want to come in. Udit Raj first and then Mr. Bhadoria.
I want to speak.
लोगों की जबान पे ताला क्यों लग जाता है?
No.
3 तलाक का निर्णय जब आता है तो
संकेत
लोगों की जबान पे
जी।
ताला क्यों लग जाता है?
Udit Raj and Mr. Bhadoria.
देश चलेगा संविधान से, देश चलेगा कानून से, लेकिन देश तुष्टीकरण की नीति से भी नहीं चलेगा।
Okay, Mr. Swami, we heard you. Yes, Mr. Udit Raj and then Mr. Bhadoria.
Sanket ji, are we to construct the nation or destroy the nation? Number one. Are we to discuss here symptom or cure? This is one place which is in controversy. There are million places, million shrines which are controversial. Are we going to destroy all of them? Are we going to have litigation or controversy in all those cases? So as far as statue is concerned,
No,
Linga
two
is
things.
concerned,
Udit Raji,
you
two
will
things.
find up to
See,
Thailand. No,
politically-
listen, let me.
Uditji,
Listen.
if I can ask my
Listen,
question. See,
listen,
politically,
Sanketji.
none of the senior leaders of the BJP have said that we want the mosque destroyed and the temple built. I have not heard this from any senior leader of the BJP. So are you saying that this
Sanketji,
exercise also should not have happened?
संकेत जी जरा कंप्लीट करने दीजिए. हमारी 2.5 करोड़ की 2.5 ट्रिलियन डॉलर इकोनॉमी है. हमारे ऊपर कर्ज है 1 ट्रिलियन 30 lakhs. What is happening in the country? And if this goes on, it will take another 100 years, 50 years, there will be more cases like this. So what are we doing? Are we destroying? One. And second, as far as the role of judiciary is concerned, the very next day when the matter came to the Supreme Court refused to intervene. And to my mind, Supreme Court would have intervened and would have closed the matter. But I find that the Supreme Court has not.
Okay, let me ask the question of this debate one more time. Mr. Bhadoria, do you think that a script is being written for 2024?
Today also, the Supreme Court has offered it to district judge. That also could have not happened.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Mr.
every
Bhadoria.
day, even centuries will take. So
Okay,
it's
Mr.
going
Bhadoria,
to, is
Mr. Bhadoria,
nation
my
ready
question.
to bear it?
The debating question, do you think that a script for 2024 is being written now? So officially the BJP may not have spoken anything. The senior leaders of the BJP are not speaking. They are talking about Sadbhavna.
They don't need to speak already. Already the big army they have prepared. Who are speaking?
Okay, Mr.
Already
Bhadoria.
the atmosphere
Mr.
has
Bhadoria's
been
comment,
vitiated.
please.
They
Mr. Bhadoria's
don't
comment,
need it. What they wanted, it has already happened. Then
Okay,
why will they
all right,
step
you
down
made
in
your
it?
point, Mr. Udit Raj. That question was for Mr. Sudhindra Bhadoria.
Question is to me, let me say this, that the nation is bigger than 2024 elections. And we have look at this whole exercise from that angle. And you already know that there is a debate in the media now about Taj Mahal, about the Qutub Minar. So there will be no end to raise and rake such issues. And I think let us put to rest all these issues. And we have, as I said earlier, and I want to reiterate again, that we will undermine the pluralist democratic society if we continue all this. And I think it is the duty of both the institutions, the judiciary at the highest level, the Supreme Court, and the government, the federal government here in the center, that they should intervene and they should keep everybody together.
Sure.
They have been airing these views, but they have to act on it.
Okay, Dr. Sarajindu, I'm going to come to you, but first Mr. Aman Lekhi. Dr.
जी,
Sarajindu, I'm going to come to you. I've seen you
BJP
raising
का
your
बड़ा
hand.
नेता
But
कोई
Mr.
नहीं
Mr.
बोला
Lekhi
है.
right now, please.
जब ऑलरेडी पर्पस सॉल्व हो गया, पूरा एटमॉस्फेयर चार्ज हो गया है, तो क्यों वो बोलेंगे? जो उनका पर्पज है बीजेपी का 2024 का, that has been solved.
Aman Lekhi, I want to understand from you, what is your understanding of the court of the Supreme Court upholding provisions of the Places of Worship Act 1991 in the Ayodhya judgment. But as of this moment, today, when this matter came up, they have referred this case to a judge, a sessions judge, to find out whether this is a violation of Places of Worship Act or not. Are we to read that this Places of Worship Act is now under review?
When the Supreme Court itself has violated...
One moment, Mr. Raj. Mr. Raj, one moment. This question was for Mr. Lekhi.
You are always talking. Others won't speak.
Mr. Lekhi, please.
You referred to the Ayodhya judgment. And so far as the Ayodhya judgment is concerned, this issue was not directly an issue. So as far as the passages you are relying upon, basically to show that it's been upheld, or those who in fact rely upon it to say that it is valid, is not strictly speaking relevant. That said, the question is whether the Supreme Court endorses it or not. The statute stands. As long as the statute stands, the presumption of constitutionality attaches. So as on date, whatever may be the challenge to it, of course I got my reservations to that challenge too. And so far as the challenges are concerned, the statute is in place. Once the statute is in place, what is very important and the issue which is missed is the difference in two words, convert and conversion. And what is important is that as far as conversion is concerned, conversion is wider than convert, and that is part of 4 and includes even minor alterations. So it's not necessary that you have to actually alter the nature of the place of worship. Even a minor change in the place of worship is forbidden under 4, and this is in fact missed. Now, as a consequence of this, and so far as the survey is concerned, if supposing the prayer is to remove would be in fact infringing 4 because of the enlarged definition of the word conversion. That said, the issue, as some of the co-panelists have said, is not purely a legal issue, and these issues mingles with religious and social sentiments, and the courts, while dealing with the matter, have necessarily to be sensitive to these issues. So I felt what the court originally did, insofar as protecting the shivling is concerned, and yet protecting also simultaneously right to worship, was a perfect balance. Where I feel the Supreme Court erred is referring the matter back to the district judge, or technically it is right because 7/11 had to be decided. However, the issue before the Supreme Court was whether the survey could be ordered at all without the 7/11 being decided, and an authoritative pronouncement on that would have actually assisted in delineating the contours. In not doing so, I think there is a lapse. But nevertheless, the question is, the Supreme Court has yet upheld the right to have the preliminary issue decided, and that will have a material bearing on the outcome. I personally feel these issues can't only be decided legally, and because the issues have got resonance and repercussions beyond the legal field, and ideally, if we have to have the larger interests of the country in mind, it is in fact the right thinking members of both communities should come forward to resolve and reconcile this particular matter, because it's not something which is incapable of resolution.
To brush it under the carpet is also not right, because it will keep on simmering, and then to make a public spectacle out of it, I don't know, maybe for political gains, is obviously not right, as all of us conclude. Now, Dr. Saradindu,
yes,
I want to ask you this question. You see, as a historian, can you tell me how much back in time should we be going to correct historical wrongs? Today, there is this conversation about correcting a historical wrong done 500 years ago. Then somebody will say 1,000 years ago something wrong had happened. 800 years ago something wrong had happened.
Sanket,
where do you set that benchmark?
Question. That is a really relevant question.
मुझे बोलने दीजिए. I respond to you by responding to what Udit Raji has said. I was very shocked and appalled that a person of Udit Raji's status has said that Buddhist temples were destroyed and Hindu temples were destroyed, were built over it. This is absurd. This is absurd. If the Hindu-Buddhist relations...
It is not absurd.
Please let me complete.
I challenge. If I am disapproved, I challenge.
Let me complete. No, I didn't interfere when you were speaking. This is wrong. This is wrong. You're a senior person. If Hindu-Buddhist relations were bad, then the Tibetan Buddhists would not have come to India. 1960 they're coming. The Chakma Buddhists from East Pakistan, Bangladesh, they have come to India. They didn't go to Pakistan. So don't, don't make wrong use of history. Don't falsify history. So you just can prove that. Secondly, survey. I'm coming back to that, Survey is important because in India, whatever historians say, because people don't take historians very seriously. That is the tragedy of the history writing in India since 1947. So a survey is very important. Something being supervised with a court of law, people still have respect for the judiciary. So once the legally authorized survey comes out with certain findings, that will be binding on all. Otherwise, historians, social scientists, they are not taken seriously because they have tried to put a lead over the story about the destruction of Hindu temples by the Muslim conquerors. So facts must be established, and it is very important. The victims and history have a right.
Dr. Saradindu, I want to ask you, what is your opinion about knowing history and then attempting to correct history? One is an academic / legal exercise. The other tends to become a political exercise. As Mr. K.C. Tyagi said, we have seen it happening in this country.
Okay, Sanket, I think history,
and this is bound to become a legal, a political exercise.
Surely, if historians,
it's just written all over.
If society, government doesn't take the historians seriously, then the court has to intervene. So no doubt about that. Next, you see, history is just not a record of past things. History has an application, is a pragmatic application. Because we should take lessons from history. You see, Indians, Hindus are very well known that they have not taken any lessons from history. Look, we didn't take any lessons from the 1947 that Hindus cannot live in areas which is dominated by Muslim rulers. Because we didn't do that, Kashmiri Hindus had to leave. No one, neither Indian judiciary, neither the Indian army, neither Indian civil society has come.
Professor Mridula Mukherjee, would you like to respond?
So this is
I see
the right to establish.
I would like to respond to him.
Yes, one moment. First,
he has already made a comment on my statement.
Yes, I'll come to you, Mr. Udit Raj. One moment. Professor Mridula.
Well, I would just like to first of all say that I think Sharadendu Mukherjee's point that countering Mr. Udit Raj, that how absurd it is to say that Hindus could have destroyed Buddhist temples. I don't know. There are enough accounts which say that such things have happened. He can dispute them, but he can't say that such a thing is preposterous. Mr. Udit Raj is talking. Please let me finish. He is talking on the basis of some historical investigations. Now, Sharadendu may disagree with it, but to say today Chakma Buddhists are coming to India means that Buddhist temples were never destroyed. You see, this is where the whole politics come in. Let's say tomorrow a powerful movement emerges from among the Dalit Buddhists in India, which says they want to dig up every Hindu temple and find out whether it is on the ruins of a Buddhist temple. Where are we going to go?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Get the records.
Can you let me?
Get the records.
Please, can you let me finish now, Sharadendu? Please. You are my classmate. Please let me talk also.
You're heating up unnecessary
Can you allow me that much space?
Please, Mridula, go ahead. Please.
I am very respectful to you, but please don't interrupt me. Let me finish my sentence at least. I'm saying, where will we end up? In every country's history, there are histories of disputes between communities, between different religions. Look at the history of Hagia Sophia, the famous mosque / temple church in Istanbul. It was for many years a Christian Orthodox shrine, then it became a mosque, and then the forward-looking ruler, Ayodhya.
How far back do we go?
Who modernized, can you let me finish please, 1 minute? Who modernized Turkey, took the very wise decision 100 years ago to make it into a museum, so that there was no dispute. Now a new ruler who wants to use religion again for his political purposes has reconverted it into a mosque. Who do I support? Ayatollah, not Erdogan. My argument is very simple.
Okay. Udit Raj, before I come to you, Justice Nandrajog raised his hand, and then Professor Bhatt. I'll give you the last word, Mr. Udit Raj. Yeah.
I entirely agree with what Udit Raj is saying. And I think the other panelists also agree, how far back do we go in history? And as Mridula said, I totally disagree on one point with her. And I could quote from historians whom today one section of the political community reveres. If you would read Swami Vivekananda's works, writings, and in volume 3, he records that the Puri temple was a Buddhist shrine. Even Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, if you read his book on the origin of Hindu festival essays and letters, he also records that the Puri temple at one time was a Buddhist shrine. Even if you read Dayanand Saraswati's writing, Satyarat Prakash, which is a very, very controversial book, if you read chapter 11, page 347, even he accepts the fact that it was a Buddhist shrine and the three deities of Jagannath, Balram and Subhadra replicate Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. So the point is, as what Udit says, how back do we go in history? Are the history books not replete with Hindu kings raiding Hindu kings' territories, demolishing their temples?
Okay, one by one.
Removing their idols.
Okay,
on the
important point
principle-
being made.
Just a
Udit
moment.
Raj
On the
and then
principle
Mr. Lekhi
that
also,
the
I believe,
king
is raising
used
his
to-
hand.
Just 1 second more.
Yes, sir.
The king would claim right to rule from a divine source, which was his deity.
Okay.
And when the king was defeated, the first thing done was the temple was demolished and the deity was removed. We have recorded history on that. So if tomorrow the Vaishnavites say we want a Vaishnav temple, the Shivite says I want a Shivite temple, at some stage
Sure.
you have to have a status quo.
Okay,
On this
we have to have a
subject,
status quo. That's an
just
important
1
point.
second more.
Unfortunately, I am running out of time, so let me quickly give the last word to Mr. Udit Raj, Mr. Lekhi, as well as Professor Bhatt. One by one, please. Mr. Udit Raj, you go first.
I'm very thankful to Professor Mridula Mukherjee. Of course, I was her student in JNU, and she has supported it. What I want to say is that where is the end of all these things? And at one point of time, Hinduism was spread all over, and Buddhism was all. Then, of course, those who are creating this fuss, or they are politicizing, they should go to Thailand also, Cambodia also, and reclaim. Is there any end to it? And one. Second thing, that it is more political than legal. And I was expecting that Supreme Court would have not allowed to continue this
Sure.
further in the context of 1919 Act.
Okay.
But unfortunately, whatever the decision
Sure,
has been
sure.
done
Running
by,
out of time, so
but
quickly, Professor
let us
Bhatt and then
look
Mr. Lekhi.
forward. Let us
One by one,
look
please.
Sanjay,
forward.
I just want to put
Professor
forward-
Bhatt, how far back in time do we go? How do we settle this? This will
You
be
see-
endless.
You see, there are few sacred places, which have been the cultural and spiritual hubs of the Indian culture.
Every
And
place
that
is
what
sacred to everyone.
You see,
That is
Kashi
also
is something
subjective.
which,
तो पूरी धरती
Kashi is
sacred है
something-
भाई।
Kashi
पूरी
is
धरती
something
है।
that-
और मैं तो
See,
उम्मीद कर रहा था मेरे
जी,
विद्वान
आप-
दोस्त केसी
तो
त्यागी
आप बहुत
जी
विद्वान हैं,
इस
लेकिन
इश्यू को
थोड़ा सा
उठाएंगे।
हमें बोलने का समय दें। आप बहुत विद्वान हैं, थोड़ा सा समय, 1 मिनट का समय दे दें।
जल्दी से please.
My point here is that this all started where a few women have asked their right to worship their deity. Now, is it that, as citizens of country, don't they have also a right to ask under Article 25 that they would like, they're simply asking for permission, which they were allowed before 1990 when this Worship Act came. Before that, they were allowed to go and do Gauri Shungar Puja. So, why is it that, where
Okay.
this is going to lead?
Okay,
And the
completely
point
out
is
of
that
time. Last word to Mr. Lekhi. He had raised his hand. Yes, Mr. Lekhi.
Yeah, as far as going back is concerned, the question is more a moral obligation, not a legal right, and that is precisely what is encapsulated in the statute. That while we have to look back so as to ensure that we don't repeat what the injustice of the past was, but merely because injustices have been committed in the past doesn't necessarily mean there's a right today against the present generation, because the intertemporal aspect of law will come into play. In fact, that is a point that has been missed altogether and has necessarily to be implied. And it's necessary that as far as the requirement is concerned, that there has to be, as I said in the beginning, no more flashpoints or keeping the pot on the boil, and there has to be a closure, because this particular issue cannot be permitted to fester indefinitely.
Correct. All right. Thank you very much, all of you all. A wide variety of perspectives right here on the show. Thank you very much for that. Towards the end, let's also quickly get you some comments on the Coup app. Kashi, Mathura, Hindu, Muslim, hijab cannot be deciding factor for 2024 government formation. This is, of course, the view of Yashvi, which is on your screen. Mohit also writes, are we ever going to move beyond the communal politics? Well, 2024 is not far away. Good night and goodbye.